Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the Schrade Slyte, all right, S-L-Y-T-E. This is part of their American series. I forget if there's a specific name for it or not, but Schrade kind of came back into the market a couple years ago, and they're very proud to release a bunch of 100% made in America type knives, and this was one of them. This is one of the more affordable ones at $47. So USA made. This one's rocking D2. It is a frame lock. All right, simple design here. Let me give you a zoom on this so you can see that Schrade American flag design, made in the USA. All right, this is dirty because I've been using it. You can see down here we have some kind of a serial number, which doesn't mean anything to me. And on the front we have the newer, once the camera focuses because it's shiny, the newer Schrade logo, and then D2. All right. And this handle here is stainless steel and has kind of like a black wash finish on it. So here's the thing. I like this knife and I don't like this knife. There's a lot I like about it. I mean, I think the blade is great. I don't like the handle at all, and you're gonna see why. I know you guys are gonna know because you're smart. What's wrong with this handle? Where's the rest of it? This is the thinnest frame lock literally I've ever seen in my life. You could not make a thinner one unless the blade was thinner, making the handles maybe slightly thinner together. But this is ridiculous to me. It's basically just liners. Now, the advantage of that is this comes in at 3.4 ounces and it's super, super flat. So if you like a knife that rides in the pocket completely flat, there's nothing flatter. All right, except for maybe an open scale knife like that has one handle scale, like let's say a CRKT Kiss, something like that, where it's literally one side of a handle and the other one doesn't exist. This thing is ridiculous. So it is a flipper. It does lock up great. All right, there's a lot of good with this knife, but ultimately, if you press hard with it, like if you put your thumb on the back there and just really crank down, it's just uncomfortable because it's so thin. So to me, it's kind of like, yeah, this would be great if you put handle scales on it, you know? That's really my biggest gripe. Outside of that, and honestly, for the $47 price tag it sells for, it's pretty good. I really can't complain. It's just, I mean, that bothers me enough where, like, it wouldn't be, like, my top recommendation to anyone by any means, trust me. But if you're a Schrade fan and you've been disappointed after disappointed after disappointment over the years, this one might be a little bit of a saving grace, just a little bit. So much going for it. I would love if they made this, you know, with just some thicker handles. Honestly, I don't mind the blade. I mean, it works very well. This they call a reverse tanto. It's, you know, depending on who you are, this could be a modified, you know, sheep's foot blade. Wouldn't really say Warncliffe, but whatever. Reverse tanto works for me. That's fine. The blade shape is always very subjective, especially these days. You could say modified anything. Really, this is technically, I guess, a modified clip point. Just really heavily modified. But anyway, so we do have a swedge here. The swedge is not sharpened. You can see though, it thickens back up, all right, for a stronger tip there. No issues. I did not hold back at all. I use this thing, you know, just to see what it would take, and it's totally fine. Never chipped out, never broke the tip. I actually did a little bit of stabbing in some wood and some tip prying, just for the fun of it, and I stopped because it was uncomfortable because of the handles. I just wanted to see if that tip would take the abuse, and my hand took the abuse. So yeah, I mean, I think the blade is plenty strong. Like I said, even though with these ridiculously thin liners, which are your handle, the lockup is fantastic. I have no complaints. There's no wiggle at all in any direction. All right, right out of the box. Some specs here. The blade is 3 inches long. Like I said, D2, reverse tanto. Open is 7.5 inches. Closed is 4.5. It's really basic, you know what I'm saying? Blade, thin handle, liner, let's call it, another liner. All right, pocket clip actually works very well. It's smooth, the black wash. There's good tension on this pocket clip. I have no issues with that at all. You can see it is tip up, right side carry. You cannot swap it. All right, so you're stuck with that. Big old fat flipper on this guy. No issues at all either. As far as looks, like, closed, it kind of looks nice. I'm not a huge fan of the blade profile itself, but it's an okay looking knife. It's not ugly by any means. But the flipper on the back, there's a little jimping on the top, and it creates just a really nice shelf. It's really hard to just not flick this out perfectly every time. So I have to say kudos to that for the design there. And I don't know how many times I have to say it. Please, just give me a little more meat on these handles. I mean, come on. You're so close to making like a knockout knife to me. But it definitely gets a hit for the thin handles. Now, for some people, I would say, like, if you're not necessarily a knife person, but you need a knife in your life, there's nothing wrong with this. It's fine. I can cut stuff. It's not a big deal. It's just, I go through so many different knives, and when you have a knife in your hand that's extremely comfortable, and then you go to something like this, which is like, kind of mediocre in the comfort department, and just, if you're really using this hard, I mean, if you're using it hard, you should probably have more of a relaxed grip like this, a natural grip, but if you want to push on the back there, you're just SOL because it's uncomfortable. On the front, it's still very, very thin. For some reason, it doesn't feel as uncomfortable in my pointer finger than it does with my thumb pushing down, but it's not comfortable. I could just say that. Overall, there's a little bit of an indentation here. It's not really a choil by any means, but it's not uncomfortable shape. It's just because they're so thin. Oh my God, are they thin? Also, the handle liners, they don't have any handles. It's just liners. So it's thin. It's thin, and it's thin. Outside of the handles being thin, I really just don't like that these are so thin. But now that I've really just beaten a dead horse, everything else is actually pretty good. And the Made in America thing, that's always cool. So it's hard to hate on this guy. And it's funny because I gave this to my wife to try because I was so shocked. Like when I first got it, I was so shocked that it was so thin. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculously horrible. And I said, hey, check this out. And she handled it. She's like, oh, what? I'm like, what do you mean what? Look how thin this is. And she wasn't bothered by it. She's like, oh, it's fine. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be everyone's kryptonite having thin handles there. But if you are looking for a knife, if you have, folder after folder and you're like, you know what, these things are just too thick. They're just too wide in my pocket. You want something low profile? That's the one right there. There's nothing more, well, very few that are more low profile than that guy. But anyway, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think what's actually thinner. Maybe the SOG, what was it, the XR something or other. It was kind of a short, more like a money clip knife, but that thing was super thin too. That's what this kind of reminds me of. But like I said, I can't hate too much. It's really just one thing I don't like about it. Everything else is just A-okay, and it actually works very nicely to cut stuff, and that's really the point at the end of the day. I would say if you're hardcore using your folders every day, not the one for you, because it will bother you, probably. But if you use your knives just, kind of light to medium duty, and you're not super bothered by the thinner scales, and you do like that it's going to carry and have a much thinner profile, maybe it's worth checking out. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Made in America thing is carrying a lot of weight here. I have to say that. If this was made in China and not made in America, I probably wouldn't be as excited about it. The discomfort would definitely be more prevalent. It's almost like it's getting a slight pass because of that Schrade American flag on the back. The Made in the USA thing has there's such an emotional response for me as an American, and I'm so excited to see an American-made knife. It's like they're like blinders. It's putting blinders on me. If you did say this is a Chinese knife, I wouldn't be as excited about it, but it does add weight for me anyway. So it does come with a little pouch. It seems like all the new Schrade stuff comes with this little bag pouch thing. But the price is right. I will say that. For $47, I can overlook it a little bit. Not entirely. It's worth mentioning, and I should probably mention it again. These handles are they're just too thin. But outside of that, I kind of like it. I kind of like it a little bit. So let me know if you have tried the Slyte, S-L-Y-T-E. No idea what that means. If you want to let me know or explain it to me, that'd be great in the comments section. It's kind of middle of the road. It's definitely worth mentioning. That's why I want to try it out. I want to show you guys and talk about it. But, if someone's like, dude, what Schrade should I get? I don't know if I'd even mention it because of how thin the handles are. But if they're like, I just need to have an all-American knife, this would probably be in the back of my mind. And say, hey, if you want something super thin and made in America, this might be something you might want to try out. So anyway, the price tag in the Made in America is what's saving this. Make this $75, made in China, total piece of junk. Would never want anyone in the world to have to deal with it. But the price and that American flag, like I said, it softens the blow, I have to say. Anyway, that's all. Let me know what you think of it, particularly if you have this knife, what you thought about the ergonomics with those thinner handles. So that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing I just want to mention before I go. The handles are way too thin on this. So that's all. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Take care.